What's up, hybrids? Welcome back to another episode of the Fandom Hybrid Podcast. This is Hanako, and I am here with Anthony, Lori, and Mike, and we are discussing the Disney Plus series Secret Invasion.
Of
Now,
the body snatchers.
now
I
I'm gonna
mean,
preface this with saying we debated long and hard about whether or not we were going to do this as we do our normal shows and do one episode at a time. But I think that we all agreed that we're just going to do a one and done on the whole season, all 6 episodes, because I believe all of us are in agreement that we did not really enjoy this show as much as we thought we would. Am I speaking
well,
truth here?
well, okay, here's the thing. Let me preface this by saying I am the Marvel apologist of the podcast. I usually like everything that Marvel does, even the stuff that people say is trash. I like it. I think it's good. Having said that, this was so uneven that I couldn't even grasp onto something to be like, "Oh, you guys are wrong. I love this series. I loved every part of it," because I didn't like every part of it. There were a few scenes that I liked. Like there were a couple acting scenes between Fake Rhodey and Nick Fury where the acting was really fucking good, and I was just like, okay, like I love those scenes. Like Nick Fury had a lot of scenes where he was acting his ass, where he this is some of his best work, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was like, okay, maybe this will save it, but there's so much. It's weird. It's just like it's off. It's like the finale was the worst. Like as far as being uneven, it was just bad. And it's like I didn't like it's not that I didn't like the ending, it's just the ending was just kind of like okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like and it's like I was confused about how they got like when they did the whole battle scene, which was fire, like I was just confused about where they like all the things that they got and they presented. I was just kind of like, huh? Like all those people were there. Like the first one they did was Ghost. Where the fuck was Ghost? I didn't see Ghost anywhere in the final one, and that's one of the first effects that they used. I was like, whoa. I mean, I like how the effects, how they looked, but it's like some of them I'm just like, I don't know. But
Mm-hmm.
it's so uneven. I'm just like, I wanted to like it. I really wanted to like it, even after the first episode where they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to take her out like immediately. Like, damn it, they didn't have to take Hill out like that. I mean, they really didn't. But I went along with it. I kept trying to go along with it, and it's like, ugh. For all the positives, it's right mid, low mid to me. It's like
He said positives like there were a lot. No, let me stop. I,
was a
because
positive
I
in this.
because I really don't want to
Olivia,
spend
Olivia Colman was great. Was
that she was. I don't want to spend the whole episode like bashing it, but it's just like there was kind of like you said, it was so uneven. For those of y'all viewing, I apologize. Apparently, my cat wants to be a part of the podcast tonight, but it was so not even just uneven. It was just, I think clunky for me is the best word because, okay, first of all, let me admit, I've only seen Captain Marvel once up until tonight. I rewatched it before this podcast because I didn't remember anything about that movie, specifically the whole battle between the Kree and the Skrulls and the whole Talos. I didn't remember any of it. So I'm looking at this very first episode and I spent more time trying to figure out how all the dots connected as opposed to enjoying the episode. And the funny thing is we actually did record an episode for the first. And I just think after that, we were like, okay, well, we're gonna do it the way we supposed to do it, episode by episode. And then as the episodes kind of went on, we were all just like, no, we cannot spend multiple times, multiple days, multiple. It just, I don't know. I just felt like my takeaway from the whole thing was we're kind of sort of right back where we started with the Kree and the Skrulls. And then we know more about Nick Fury's love life than I ever want. Like, Nick Fury is one of those characters I've never, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but you know how you have some TV shows and some characters when you look at the characters, you automatically ship them, or you have like an interest, a vested interest in this relationship. Nick Fury is one of those people I've never had a desire to see him in a relationship. I've never wanted that backstory. Like, okay, yeah, you're curious about a family, but I did not need all of this detail because in the end, did it change anything about his character? For me, it really didn't. Besides knowing, okay, yes, he is capable of loving someone, he is capable of giving up things, but I don't know. It was just one of
Oh,
those shows. I don't know.
okay,
Okay.
can I go now?
Yes, you can go. While I try to wrangle the two cats that have all of a sudden
Now,
taken over my camera.
now there are two.
There
There
are
are two
two.
cats. There are two cats. So why you get them together? All right. So in the interest of not spending the whole episode bashing the show, I'm going to get it all out in the beginning, as I'm known to do. So first, um, we were sold on the bill of goods, like this being like this big spy show or whatever. That we're going to see this, you know, I guess James Bond, Jason Bourne type of thing or whatever. No, it wasn't. Not at all. It was Invasion of the Body Snatchers, period. That's what it was.
Right.
Almost identical to whatever version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers you know. So had they sold it as that, I think my expectation level would have been not higher or lower. It just would have been different.
Mm-hmm.
And side note, if they wanted to do like a spy type of show, what they should have done is made Gaia like a triple agent. Like she
Mm.
finds out um what's his name is doing. She calls, Nick, says, I can help you out with this, but then she's also spying for him and then spying for Nick and make it about her. Like I know a lot of people didn't like her character or her storyline, but you really could have leaned in on her the time that she spent as like a double agent and made that sort of like your spy thing. And that probably would have made it a bit more interesting. The other thing I didn't like Nick's characterization in the show. Like, this is not the Nick Fury that we know. I know he's broken, I know he has issues, but I refuse to believe that this Nick Fury would not have been prepared for an alien invasion after what happened with the Chitauri.
Right.
I
Right.
just don't buy it. Like, even if he was broken or whatever, he would have already had shit in place. Okay, he would just be like, okay, this is an alien invasion. We need to deal with this now. All right. So I had an issue with that too. Um, the tone and the mood and the pacing, like y'all said, it was just off. Like, it was just, what was the word you use, Hanako?
Clunky.
Clunky. It was
It
just
was very
clunky.
clunky.
It was clunky. It seemed somewhat lazy. But I will say some of the performances, like the acting, was really good.
Yeah.
Um, but they can only do so much with the material.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I could say so much more, but those were my main issues. And I had the same reaction that Mike did. Ghost, like, when did you get that DNA? Like, where did that come from?
Right.
And then some of the powers that they were using. Okay, I would prioritize the Hulk over Drax. I don't understand why you would use Drax and not the Hulk
Because Drax
as
was invisible.
as your go-to. Right. It's like, okay, you got Captain Marvel, albeit maybe at a lesser power, and you got the Hulk. who else do you need? You know what I mean? Like, what else do you
I
need?
mean, everything else is like cherry on top. But even that whole thing bothered me because this is Nick Fury. This is one of the most paranoid people on the planet. If you look at the way he has behaved in the Avengers films and all of the other prequels to this show. I know y'all, I'm sorry. My cats are just they're clean tonight. But for him to come up with this thing or have this thing called a harvest where you have everybody's fucking powers in one spot and you have the Kree go and collect it for you. That just seems so far off the mark for what I
Oh,
know
The
you mean the
harvest seems
scrolls?
stupid.
You mean the scrolls when
Oh,
they collect
excuse me.
everything?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Are you
I'm in
stuck
a
on the movie?
I'm in a Miss Marvel state of mind. But you have the Skrulls go and collect this for you? The Skrulls, not your Bruce Banners, not well, definitely I can understand why you wouldn't have Tony do
Well,
it,
not
but
your regular shield agents. Just have them go collect it.
right, your loyal people, your Colsons, or even though technically speaking, whatever, but but the people who are loyal to you, you had I
Wait, wait. We have to remember that Shield was pretty much gone. Remember?
Shield was gone, but he still had people that were
He
loyal to
did.
him.
He did.
The
That
whole the whole idea of the harvest seemed flawed to me anyway. I'm like, why are you getting all these powers and condensing them into a formula that's
because this
like
is
this
Nick
is
Fury.
the worst idea ever. It's like of all things to get into the wrong hands, you're going to give somebody the powers of everybody who fought in game and some who didn't, Ghost. But you're going to give them all those fucking powers to one person? That makes no fucking sense at all. Why would you even? That's that's the
Because
dumbest shit ever. I
first of
mean,
all,
it's a
this
plot point. It's basically a plot point. It's like, okay, we're
Hold
gonna
on,
put this here as
before
an
we get
end
too
goal.
deep into that, let's get Lori's viewpoint of all of this because I see now we're about to dive deep in. Lori, what did you think about Secret Invasion overall?
I think it made Moon Knight look like high art.
But
Okay,
Moon
we're not gonna
Knight
bring
was
Moon Knight into
actually
this. Hold up,
good.
no, absolutely not.
Moon
You're
Knight
not gonna be
was
disparaging Moon Knight.
good.
Eh,
Woman,
let
I swear to
I
no,
okay. This is
no.
this is this is my thing. I was with them the first episode, the second episode, but then it started diverting, and I'm like, okay. And then when we get to the whole thing, of course, the last episode with the harvest, they lost me when they let us know that his wife, who he loved, who he has been with, was not who she said she was. I'm like, okay, Nick Fury is a pretty good spy. You would think that he would already have figured that one out. I mean, a 5-year-old could have figured that out.
Oh, you
The
mean
other
that she was working for what's his name instead of yes.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The
Or
Mm-hmm.
the the
Scrody.
yeah, the other
Scrody.
well, no, I
But
mean, come
he knew
on.
that. He knew that.
No, I don't think he did. I don't
No,
think
he
he
knew
did
that.
I
until
think he
later.
did. I'm pretty sure he knew.
He knew that.
I didn't get that impression. The other thing that bothered me is that you have got all of these people running around and they're doing this ridiculous storyline. And it's like Mike said, who came up with the idea of the harvest? I mean, obviously, yes, you don't want Tony Stark and you don't want, several other people. But at the same time, I'm like, you've got Don Cheadle, who's an excellent actor, running around being basically an asshole. I mean, literally. I mean, he couldn't have played it any better. I mean, and that last episode, because I was rewatching it before we started, where he's like, "Well, we need to do this," and I mean, come on. I could use another analogy, but I won't because I'm trying to be nice and PC. But he was giving, "Oh, I'm going to do whatever they want me to do because I want to be liked." I mean, it
I'll
was
say it since you want. Rhodey was a dick.
okay. All right,
He
there
Rhodey
you go.
was
was.
a dick.
He was.
And the thing is, Don Cheadle
I'm
is
sorry,
so
she
good.
was a dick. Why did it have?
Okay,
Why did Rhodey have to be a female Skrull?
we're not
Like
gonna go there.
that whole shower scene
No,
when
no,
she
we're
showered
no,
and then
we-
turned into
Mike,
Rhodey.
no,
Like
Mike,
I
no,
I still
no,
see that in my
no,
nightmares. I can't deal with
Mike,
it. It's bad.
we
It's so
can't wait.
bad.
Mike.
Yeah.
Please
So
send
base
all emails to EM.
No, no, I'm not. I'm
CEE.
not. I'm not saying that as a diss to females. It's just that to
It
see them is it didn't
No,
fit to
it
me. It's
did.
like
It
okay,
came across
no, not
very,
it,
very strange. It was very.
yeah.
yeah, it
but
did. That's
None
what
of
I'm
it was
saying.
none
okay,
of it was really good. And my last little point is that I thought that Amelia Clark did a really good job. It's just that that fight at the end, it was, to me, it was not believable. I didn't believe the fact that she came in as Fury, and she was doing all the coughing and all this and that, and then he didn't recognize that maybe Fury was holding up a little bit better than he should have in a nuclear wasteland. The whole thing I didn't care for.
I
That's
agree
my two
with you on
cents.
that part. The scene in the last episode in the finale where Nick goes to confront him and they do the fight. For someone who has been watching these superhero movies and these Marvel movies for over a decade, that fight did not feel believable to me. Like there were certain parts of it where I was like, okay, yeah, oh, she got him good. But overall, I was like, this is very unbelievable,
but
which I know is weird, but
the to me the biggest fault with this show is that it didn't change anything. And like I know I always say this, and I'm gonna stick to it, that they do these shows that can't change anything that's going to be in the movies. So when we see the trailer for the Marvels and you see Nick Fury in there, you already know that he survives whatever the secret invasion is. We know
Basically,
that whatever the secret invasion is not going to impact anything major. You know what I mean? So
mhm.
that was one of the it's just bad. It's like there's no stakes. That's the word they use. There are no stakes. It's not high stakes. There's no sacrifice. There's nothing that's gonna change anything in the greater MCU. I mean, we have an additional person with more powers.
Mhm.
We introduce some interesting people we may see later, but
Right.
that's just the introduction. It doesn't change anything. No, what I was saying about Don Cheadle is he's such a good actor that when he first came on scene, I was like, "That's a Skrull. That ain't Rhodey,"
Mhm.
because he didn't even act like Rhodey would normally act. It was like he went back and he watched Rhodey in all the other movies. Like, okay, I know how not to be, and that's
Mhm.
what he did. He was such he was so fake and condescending and mean and just dismissive
And I think that's what bothered me
and
about
it
his
bothered.
character. Yes, because when he was that way, let's say with Tony, or even just in general, when he talks to some of the other people, his his version of sarcasm, it's always like he gives it with a straight face, but it's never mean spirited. It's never
Mhm.
cruel. It's basically it's playground banter for the most part,
Yeah,
and you kind of have to be that way when your best friend is Tony Stark.
yeah.
You have to have that playfulness, but also be able to be a little bit serious, but not serious enough to where it's cruel. The way that he was interacting with Fury, which should have made me realize what was going on at first, but I was just, you know how I am. I watched it the first time just to get the information, and then I start gleaming information after a second viewing. He was so off-putting for me, which was, I think, multiplied by the fact that I really don't care about Rhodey in the first place. Like, he is one of my least favorite characters, at least Don Cheadle's version of him. And I've said this, we've had this discussion, Mike and I have gone back and forth. I don't like Don Cheadle's version of Rhodey. Rhodey he just gets on my nerves. So to watch him go through the way that he was talking to Nick Fury, like, okay, yeah, I understand Nick Fury has made some major mistakes. We have called him out about some of the stuff that he has done during the whole course of the whole Avengers initiative. But that is still Nick motherfucking Fury. You just don't talk to him like that and think that there's not going to be some repercussions. You just don't. It just, I don't know, that whole
And he
thing
wasn't,
bothered me.
and it's like you you're not concerned. It was the same reaction I had when what's the guy in the beginning who ended up being a Skrull?
Yeah, for Martin Freeman.
Agent Ross.
Yeah,
Ross.
when Ross's reaction to their alien shapeshifters who's infiltrated our government, he's like, "Yeah, okay, oh, dude, you're a Skrull," and that was the same thing that happened with Don Cheadle. He's like, "Yeah, we have Skrulls, they're shapeshifting, invading the highest levels of government." He's like, "Yeah, but you're under arrest." I'm like, wait a second. That's not the Rhodey that I know. The Rhodey I know would have first been like, dude, where the fuck you been for the last 5 years or whatever,
Right.
you know? And it didn't make any sense. And I don't know. I'm sure there are reasons why they did it that way. But
Look,
it didn't improve the show. It didn't make the show any better.
Right. It did.
that's the thing. It's like, because I felt like there were so many. This series had a lot of moments that were good, like, in my opinion.
The
Like,
interrogation scene was great.
interrogation scene was good. The scenes between Nick and his wife I liked those. I thought they
I
were really
like them, but
I thought they were really good. And I like the first interaction between Rhodey and Fury. I thought it was a really good scene. And I just wish there was more of it. I just wish, I mean, they didn't know what they wanted. To Anthony's point, they didn't know what they wanted to do between making this a well acted drama or to have action everywhere. And it's like they kind of lost it when they had, like, they'll have a really good acting scene, they don't have just scenes leading to action and explosions. Then they'll come back and have a really good acting scene, then go right back to a sequence where it's just about explosions and everything else. So it's like there's not a lot of balance in it. That's why it was so uneven for me. It just kind of kept jerking me back and forth, like the old Ninja roller coaster at Six Flags, where it's like I felt like I had a bad neck afterwards. So I was like, Jesus Christ. But I mean, there was, and I hate that there wasn't enough good to counteract the bad. Like, I wish they had more of Olivia Colman in it, because every scene she was in, she fucking took command of it. And I was all for it. She's the one that actually made me want to see a spinoff of this with her and Gaia. Like, I would love to see, just to see the two of them going back and forth and backstabbing each other and helping each other. I think that would be actually a decent spin-off series. But it's like there wasn't enough of her in it. The scenes she was in were great, but she wasn't in it a lot. So it's like,
right.
Okay.
So my opinion about Olivia Colman's character is that they could have put her in more things and I won't be mad about it. Like, her introduction and the way that she has become, I guess she's a big player in the story now, to me makes more sense than what they were able to do with the whole Valentina Contessa blah 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 person. But again, that was, COVID and all of that stuff. As far as introducing that character properly, I feel like this is the way that they should have done it.
Yeah, and my first thought was, I can't wait to see them go head to head, because
I thought that too.
Oh, her and Val,
yeah,
that would be dope.
I feel like that is the path that we're on.
I feel that way too. So let's talk about
one thing. I'm sorry. One thing I wanted them to show, or I thought would happen, is that we would see that Peggy's niece,
Sharon Carter.
Sharon Carter, the way that she was acting in,
right, she should have been a Skrull.
That she would have been a Skrull. The way that she was acting in Falcon and Winter Soldier. because that would explain a lot of her the choices that she made too. But I know
It
this
would,
is
but at the same time, I also feel like the choices that she made, that she revealed in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and why she made those choices, they made sense, because you as a person, just as a human, go through this whole thing with everybody else about the snap and people becoming missing, you basically losing your home, and no one cared enough about you to say, hey, are you okay? I can understand that.
right. But it works because she may not have made those choices, even though that's how she felt. But the Skrull taking her memories and knowing how she felt about things would make it easier for her to make those choices. And it
Yeah,
was
but
believable. That's the whole point of why the Skrulls take your memory, so they can pass off as you. So it wouldn't be so obvious that, oh well, she's doing these. But that's neither here nor there.
yeah.
I thought that would have been a cool thing to do, just to kind of spice it up a little bit, make it a little bit more interesting, tie it into the other shows, make it not seem like it's just this isolated thing that happens and just kind of is over. Um, and I also think that they had a missed opportunity with Gravik, because I think they could have done a lot more with his character.
Mm-hmm.
I would have not been offended if they had shifted the show more towards his point of view
Mm-hmm.
and been more about him, and we saw him more than we would have seen Nick or Gaia or anyone else. There was so, like Mike said, there were so many things they could have done to make it so much better. But I don't want to discount the performances, because he played that character like a by the numbers
It was
character, like
good,
a
yeah.
bad guy. He was really good at that. And you could almost kind of sympathize with him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, like Mike said, you really wanted all of the good things to kind of outweigh the bad things. But I think the whole premise of the show and where they were going was the problem with the show. Like they
Yeah.
didn't set it up right. They didn't design it right. Like you said, it was clunky. It was
Yeah,
just
and I think
clunky.
one of the other problems is, and we've talked about this now until we're blue in the face, stop giving us TV series with 6 fucking episodes. Just stop, because you're trying to rush and put and cram so much into these episodes, and these episodes weren't even a full hour. I think most of them were like between 45 and 50 minutes at best.
I think it was like 35 to 45 at
So
best.
you're trying to cram all of this story in these 6 little episodes, and you're rushing. You're giving us it's not balanced. It's really not balanced, because even though, yes, they kind of went back and explained as far as the people who we found out were Skrulls, the Agent Ross and Rhodey and a couple of other people, the world leaders. I have more questions about that than I do answers, because now it's like, so how long have you guys been impersonating these people? And even more so, trying to stay off YouTube and looking at all of the conspiracy theories regarding these characters, and probably when they changed, when they were taken over by the Skrulls. I'm like, I have a headache. I have a full-blown headache. And it's to the point where I'm watching the videos and I'm trying to keep up and I'm trying to make it make sense. And after about 5 or 10 minutes, it starts sounding like Charlie Brown's teacher. And it's just nothing is connecting with me, because again, I have so many more questions. Like, how long has Rhodey been a Skrull? Was he a Skrull in Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
That
No,
whole timeline that they
no,
explained, I don't like it at all.
no.
I
Okay,
hate it.
so
I hate it.
I wish Michelle was here, because she did a deep dive on this and she did a thorough investigation. She
Okay.
spent a whole day investigating this
Okay.
and watching videos, watching the shows and the movies.
Mm-hmm.
He could, the only way they could change this is they have to be retroactive and change some stuff to make it work.
Okay.
However, clearly he is himself in Falcon and Winter Soldier. because he's wearing the brace under his pants when he's in the museum talking to Sam. You can see the lights on the leg brace.
Okay.
All right. The Skrull in the show, Secret Invasion, never wore the brace.
Mm.
In Endgame, when he was stuck under all that rubble, he was bleeding and he was bleeding red. We know that the Skrulls bleed purple.
Right.
Or whatever, but he was clearly red. He had the brace. When he got out of the suit, he was crawling because he could not walk.
Okay.
Why would a Skrull who find themselves in that situation where they really don't have anything to do with that shit, why would they hang around? There's no reason to try to keep up appearances at that point. But the fact that they didn't have a brace, they could barely walk, and they were bleeding red, that had to be him. So if they want to change that, which they've done before, but if they want to retcon it or whatever, they can. But as of now, until they say so, that in Endgame, it had to be after Endgame. Like maybe he was in the hospital after Endgame because maybe there was some more damage done. And that's why he's in a gown. But if they want to go back and say it's been since he hurt his back in Civil War, I have problems.
Yeah,
and
I don't think it was that
I would be
far
done
back.
with that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's what a lot of the theories are. Oh, it had to be then because he was wearing a hospital gown.
No, they weren't just theories. This is from the director, and the director who directed it said that he believed that they were going under the assumption that this happened in Civil War. And this is the problem I have with directors who direct Marvel and DC stuff that aren't fans of the genre, because they fuck everything up and they throw in their opinion and their artistic vision of something when they haven't read the base material, and then they try to change it and then they wonder why people get mad at them and don't like their movies.
Because they screw up the continuity.
Because you have two instances of it being, in fact, the actual Rhodey and not a Skrull. You can't come out and say, "Oh, he's been a Skrull since Civil War." No,
unless of course this happened
works.
off screen, which we also have problems with when they do stuff off screen and then kind of throw it in later.
It's
like the only way that works is if you're saying this is that this all takes place in another universe and we do not want to go there. So
the TVA,
leave that alone.
It's the TVA's
exactly.
fault.
Exactly. So we're not going there, but we're not going there because the multiverse shit's already fucked up.
It was Loki all along.
Exactly. Who's that messing up the timeline?
No, because there was a theory out there that Kang.
Just start singing that?
Yeah, that's funny. There was a theory though that Kang, not Kang, that He Who Remains has been making adjustments to the timeline. So it is possible that they could say that was an adjustment he made in the timeline that we just weren't aware of, and that would make. And remember, when at the end of Loki,
that's where it's taking
remember at the end of Loki, when He Who Remains died and all those, I said this means
see around
that they could do anything.
Yes,
they could do anything and be like, well, the timelines is all back. You know, the multiverse, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's just way too convenient. But again, it's like I'd rather see a movie that is done by somebody, because that's how these Marvel movies, they started with people who wrote them actually reading the source material, the actors reading the source material, people being familiar with the source material. They didn't even have to follow it exactly verbatim, but they still had to know what was going on, and know that they can't say certain things happen in certain places because that'll fuck up everything before, during, and after. But they still don't realize that, and that's frustrating. That's extremely frustrating to someone who's a fan like I am, who's watched everything, who's read comic books, and knows how things should go. And when they see that they don't go, I start holding on to things like the Master Who Shall Not Be Named, but I'm not going there. I'm not doing it. I'm fine. But my point is like if you hire a director to direct something or to produce a TV show where he has no idea about the comics or anything that's going on with it, and he just makes up wild shit and expects people to accept it and not be mad, then that's a problem.
Okay, Mike, I'm gonna piggyback off of that, and I'm gonna say this: if they would have not called this Secret Invasion, if they would have said that this was a prequel and would have said Secret Invasion dot Nick Fury, Agent of Shield, and then they probably could have told the story a little bit better with a little bit different plot line. It would have been made more sense and would have pulled it together. I just sent you guys a wiki of what Secret Invasion actually was in the comic books, and of course, it is vastly different. The thing that I didn't like, excuse me, is that the way that they made the people take over the different people, the powers, the way that they had the Skrulls do it, it just seemed like Anthony said, invasion of the body snatchers, because they strategically took people for specific reasons. But in this show, it just seems like they were just trying to get as many people who were in power and not do it strategically. The other thing is that they don't seem to have a sense of respect to previous things that you've had. If, and I know this is going to be very controversial, but if they would have taken 5 minutes and looked at, just lightly gleaned a little bit from Agents of Shield, they would have gotten a little bit better way of how to maybe tell this story, because the way it is right now, not only is it completely trash, it's disrespectful. That's the end of my statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like what Lori said. It's like, and Mike, it's sort of the same thing. Just pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it's almost like Kevin Feige said, yeah, y'all go ahead and do it. Just as long as it doesn't mess with Marvels, and as long as Nick Fury is back for Marvels, you're good. You can do whatever you want to do in the show. Because at the end of the show, Nick Fury leaves, right? But why are you not helping them with the Skrull situation? Like, this is the situation you created.
Right.
This is your mess. And you're going to leave it for someone else to clean up. That is so not like Nick Fury, it seems like. You know, it doesn't.
So you can go live happily ever after with your wife with your Skrull wife on a spaceship.
Right. But you know, there's 1.5 million Skrulls out there, most of them unaccounted for. And the people they replaced who don't have their lives right now.
Right.
That's the situation you're gonna leave. Really? That bothers me more than anything.
It felt
He's got a movie
me
to do, man. Leave him alone. Man's got a Marvel's movie to do.
That the fact that Lori brought up Agents of Shield, I was gonna say that whole Skrull storyline, it very much gave me like LMD deja vu.
Yeah.
With that storyline. And then not only that, but again, Nick Fury is just gonna leave the world to do whatever the fuck they're gonna do.
People are literally shooting random people because they think they might be Skrulls.
Okay, in Agents
so
of Shield, the way that they did it, because I'm rewatching it, what they did is when they did the LMD Lifeball Decoy episodes with Ghost Rider, yeah, it was just bad. But anyway, the way that they segued into what, for lack of a better word, their version of the Matrix was seamlessly done. I mean, they did a really good season that season, the way that they back ended it into the whole thing with Mac and Daisy and Agent May, but it made sense the way that they did it, Ghost Rider notwithstanding. But the way that they have crafted this 6 episodes, even if you have never seen a single Marvel property in your life and you're like, okay, I'm going to go into this and I'm going to watch, you would be confused because it doesn't make any sense. There's no connectivity. There's no rhyme. There's no reason. It was like, okay, we got Sam Jack. We got Emilia Clarke. We got a few other people. Let's pay them a decent amount of money. Let's give them some screen time. And while we're at it, let's see if we can make some pretty credits generated by AI, throw it up against the wall and see if it sticks. That's pretty much what we got.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's go into this story a little bit, because there are some things that I feel could have been great, and then there are some things that just really bothered me. So the whole story, the whole premise of the show is that we find out that there is a Skrull invasion. And we find this out kind of slowly over the first couple of episodes. But this possibility of a Skrull invasion is so big and so vast that it's enough to bring Nick Fury down from Saber, where he's been living for the last, 5 years since the blip. And he has to come down, try to fix this mess, because what happens is he and Miss Marvel promised to help find the Skrulls a new home. It's been 30 years, a little bit over 30 years now. Oh no, almost 30 years, but it's been 30 years. The Skrulls still don't have a home. And you have some that started to defect from Talos's leadership, because now they're like, okay, well, you didn't find us a home, so we're going to make a home right here on Earth. And you have this one person who is Gravik, who has idolized Nick Fury since he was a kid, but as he got older and they didn't have a home, he started to get a little more disgruntled, to the point where he starts leading a rebellion of Skrulls, and they are the ones who are infiltrating the government, taking over these, the lives of these very prominent people, and strategically placing them all around the world so that they can do this takeover. And what Nick Fury finds out is that it's not just a few Skrulls on Earth like he thought. There's like 1.5 million Skrulls walking the earth as other people, as government leaders, as very important people, as little kids. I mean, they're just infiltrating everywhere. And so Nick Fury has to figure out how to deal with all of this, on top of the fact that we find out that Nick Fury has a wife who is a Skrull, who he has been married to for decades, but has been kind of sort of living this separate life because of everything that's going on, because of the blip and all this other stuff. And I'm just sitting here watching this. Like, one, I don't even know if it makes sense to me that Nick Fury would marry a Skrull, just because.
Hey, the heart wants what the heart wants. Don't be speciesist.
And I get that, but for me, with the number of attacks and battles that you've had to go through with all of these different intergalactic species, I just don't know that I see Nick Fury marrying one. That just, to me, it doesn't compute. I don't know. It just, and again, maybe it just goes back to the fact that I never really see Nick Fury as a romantic figure in that sense anyway. So it's like, for me, Nick Fury has always been about saving the world, putting together these heroes, trying to make sure that the world is protected from outside sources. I mean, in a way, it's one of the few reasons why I can kind of sort of see why he did the whole harvest thing. Now, why he kept all that together in one spot, that's a whole different story. But for him to say, okay, just in case something comes up and we need to have something to
defend
combat.
ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
very
can
much like
see that.
Tony in the suit of armor around the world. Is the same
Right.
thing.
Like, the good intentions, but the execution was flawed.
The road to hell is paved with
Paved
good
with good
intentions.
intentions. Yes. So that part of it bothered me. And then when you look at the other relationships that he has, it's like, you don't really, like, I understand the way that it presented. He and Talos and Soren grew this really close bond, but we didn't see any of that. Again, this is something that happens off screen. You saw the beginning of that friendship in Miss Marvel, and then you don't see it again until this show. So for him to put such trust in someone like Talos, in someone like Gravik. You know, Gravik was one of the people who went to collect this DNA for the harvest. For you to try to tell me that Nick Fury trusted these people to do this more than he trusted a Maria Hill, more than he trusted a Natasha Romanoff, I'm not buying it. I am not buying it. It does not make sense to me.
The only way it makes sense is if he wanted to shield them from this project so that if something happened to them, that I mean, because if Gravik got caught, he could change himself to another person and get away and do whatever. But Natasha and Maria Hill, if they got caught, they can't change anyone else, and they'd be more apt to be hurt by this than Gravik would. So it's like he basically saw them as
Natasha
being
has
more
fought
disposable.
Thanos.
They see
I was
he
gonna say,
sees
first of all,
he sees
if
Gravik as being
Natasha,
more disposable than he sees Maria and Natasha.
okay,
Can we- can we-
the battlefield of Endgame is in shambles, is a mess. If Natasha's out there poking around, first of all, who's gonna care? And number two, if Natasha is walking around and she gets caught, then Natasha's no fucking good.
Oh well,
anyway.
Natasha wasn't around in Endgame anyway. But
yeah,
saying is the level of trust that he has with certain people.
Yeah,
Okay,
but if
first of all,
Maria Hill can't walk around, be looking around, just looking and picking up stuff, like why would anyone care? You know,
let's
I don't
not.
know. I'm like Hanako. It doesn't make any sense. And on top of that, you kill the two people that he probably trusted the most.
My point, yes.
Why
kill Maria Hill and not at least give us the satisfaction of seeing that she wasn't really killed? She's up in the space station. It was a fake out. Or show the body much later. It was a Skrull. Something. They just killed her. That was it. It's like, okay, bye. Sorry, done.
Like bring her in for one episode just to kill her.
Right.
That
after all these years, all these movies.
No end. After everything she has been through with these Avengers. And yes, I understand there are casualties when you're dealing with something like this, when you're dealing with a war, when you're dealing with an enemy who is trying to make this personal. I get it. But Maria Hill, like, I'm sorry, she deserved better than to come in for a few lines on an episode and then be killed. And so she deserved better than that. She has been a part of this since almost the beginning, not just in the films. She was part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too.
Mm-hmm.
Just the level of disrespect when I tell you I almost did not watch the rest of the show just because of that. I was like, wait, you really fucking kill Maria Hill? I was like, no, this can't be true. I'm going to watch the next episode because they're going to explain this away. I felt like I did watching Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix when Sirius went through the veil. Oh, he's not really dead. He's going to come back. They're going to explain this and it'll be fine. When they showed her coffin being brought off the plane and her mother fussing at Fury, I was like, I'm done.
First of all, Sirius was dead. I don't know how you didn't get that, but that's your story. Okay.
Because in the books, the veil has talking in it. So you think that the people are back there trapped. Don't get me started on this.
I'm just saying. I'm talking about the movie. I'm not talking about the book, and I know what you're saying.
The movie was dumb because they did it wrong anyway, because she never said the Avada Kedavra curse in the book. Anyway.
I know. Anyway.
Go ahead. Lori,
okay. So here's my thing. The mother. Okay, say you actually did kill her, fine. But if you're gonna do a scene with the mom, follow that up with something more than her just fussing for 5 seconds. Go back to the house, talk to her, find out that she used to be an agent or is still an agent, or she has some information or something that Maria wanted to give to Nick Fury, which would help him later on down the line that he didn't know that she had. I mean, they threw it away so crazy. And like I said, that wasn't the only thing, but there were several points where they started something, it looked good or didn't look good, they stopped it, and they moved on. Mm-hmm. And the thing with Vara, Nick's wife, the whole thing where they have to go and kill each other and this and that, and they didn't want to, and this and that. I honestly think that they could have taken her out of the series and it would not have made any difference because we still would have got the same outcome. It was like, we want you to see Nick Fury being human. I don't need to see Nick Fury having a wife. Okay? I don't need that. What was the point? They didn't break up. They were still booed up together. I mean, come on.
Right. And that's kind of how I feel about that too. Like, okay, so if Nick Fury has a wife, okay, he has a wife. I really don't need to see that because it does not have anything to do with what I care about his character for. You know, and I know that might sound a little harsh, but I didn't like you said, what does it change? Except for the fact that we know that his wife is a Skrull, so he maybe he has a little more skin in the game as far as making sure the Skrulls find a home, making sure this war doesn't happen. But again,
he
you
dipped.
just left on a spaceship with her.
He dipped. He did. I want to go back to Maria Hill for one instance because, like you, I am holding out hope that she is still alive.
Mm-hmm.
She's dead
because life model decoys are very convincing, and the mom did say it was very difficult getting her body back from the Russians. So it's possible that they were like, something ain't right with his body, and they didn't want to give up the body because they know that there's something not right with it, but they gave it up anyway.
Okay.
So I still feel like it's possible that she might still be alive, and I'm gonna hold out hope for that.
It better,
but
because I know we don't want to talk about. I know we don't want to talk about.
No, go. Maria is go. She's gone.
Is that a plug for the tour? But anyway, but like, you know, I know we don't want to compare it to the book, but one of the things that Nick told her when he saw her before about the invasion was he told her use life model decoys. Like he told her in the comic book, use the decoys, use them.
Okay.
So it's possible, especially since we know she was in the show, you know, that she knows about life model decoys and they are convincing. So
yeah, but if they're following canon, they can't really use life model decoys because of what old girl did in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, she sort of blew that one all to hell and back again. So maybe
that doesn't mean they can't still use them.
Well,
no,
really,
we'll just hold out hope because if Maria Hill is gone for good, that's gonna piss me off because even though we only saw her periodically throughout the films and stuff, it's like she's still that one presence that you know is going to be loyal to the side of good, regardless of who's at the head of it. But still, like Nick Fury got blown up and was pronounced dead. And who was the person that got him away and took care of him? And it was Maria.
Yes,
Maria.
Somebody posted somewhere that the total amount of screen time that she has had as Maria Hill is less than like 2.5 hours total.
I believe it.
You know, there's a handful of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes, some of the movies, and they were like, they said if it's 90 minutes at the most, they would be surprised. But it was so impactful that you noticed when she wasn't there.
Right.
You know,
and I ain't mad at her.
No, I'm not either.
She was still getting paychecks because if you notice at the beginning of every episode, she was still getting credit.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, yeah. So
tell them credits.
Hopefully her character will come back because I think her and then also Coulson, those are the two, like as far as Nick, like they are the ones who, and this is a quote that I heard when I was rewatching Miss Marvel tonight, when he says, you know, you use your gut to do the right thing, or Coulson used his gut to do the right thing. He was like, sometimes that's hard to do when you're being told what you're supposed to do. Like Maria had that instinct. Coulson had that instinct as far as, okay, you know what? This may look suspect, but I know that the payout is going to be exactly what we need it to be. You know, he may be doing this and not following the rules, but he's doing it for the right reason, and it's the best reason overall. I still feel that about Nick Fury. You know, that overall his most important thing is to protect the earth from everything. I just think that the way he goes about it sometimes is a little bit shady.
Gotta
But
break
so,
some gotta break
but
some eggs to make omelets. I'm sorry.
yeah, unfortunately that is the case. You do have to do that. Um, Now I will say this again. I don't like the fact that a lot of the story that we're expected to follow in this series is due to stuff that happens off screen. Because again, I feel like that makes it hard for you to connect with the audience. Like, yes, we know that this is based on a comic series, but if you're really trying to separate those two mediums and you're kind of not even using what the comics had and you're trying to develop and establish your own story with the TV show us a little bit more background on the relationship between Fury and Talos. Show us a little bit more about what happened between him and Gravik, or between what happened with Gravik and Talos.
We don't even know how the mother died.
We don't know how Sword died, except for the fact that it was Gravik and his people supposedly. But how?
We don't
And
know
then
anything.
are we
See,
supposed to?
that's another one right there.
Are we supposed to care because we only met her for like 2 seconds in Miss Marvel? So, you know,
Okay.
tell us the background between Gaia and Talos. What was it that made her defect from her father? Yes, I know they gave us a little bit of explanation because he softened up or whatever, and he wasn't the leader that he used to be, and blah blah blah, and she was mad because they hadn't found a home yet and all this other stuff. But this is what pushed you so far that you didn't even know when your own mother had died. Like, make it make sense.
This is one of these cases where, and I'm using this as an example, they can put out sequels to the big characters fairly quickly. Thor being a particular thorny point with me, but my thing is that we should have already had a Ms. Marvel 2 already instead of waiting for the Marvels, because I think if they would have had that filler movie, it would have answered a lot of questions and it would have made the bridge better.
I agree.
But they didn't. So we're sort of just waiting in the wings to figure out. I have the information. I could pull it, but it's not canon because it's TV versus comic books. But I'm 51. I don't have the time nor the patience to wait for them to put out a filler episode or a filler movie to make it make sense, and they don't. I mean, I'd rather go back and watch, I don't know, Lord of the Rings again. At least that is complete. I mean, give me something, make me want to watch this.
Right.
But
you talk about being old and not having time. You want to go back and watch all that shit? Nah, I ain't got time for that. Like, that shit make my back hurt just thinking about doing it. No.
Hey,
but I get your point.
I do that at least once every 3 or 4 months. What are you talking about?
I mentioned that I was.
And who's older?
Well, no. Well, yes, it's true. But see, here's the thing. I mentioned to my niece that I was listening to a Vampire Diaries podcast and we were talking about it. I'm now in the middle of season 7, and that was 3 weeks ago. So I guess I do have time to watch endless TV.
We're not even going to mention
Vampire
Diaries.
But
because Michelle just started watching it, and I was I told Anthony, I said, if Michelle ever wants to talk about Vampire Diaries, Laura will be, she will be so psyched. But anyway, let's not get into the weeds. Let's
so let me ask you this, Hanako, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but let me ask you this. Okay, so at the end of episode 5, when he's there and they're at his grave, and I forget the woman's name, and something about old only people with
Olivia Colman's character,
yes, Olivia Colman's
Sonia,
character,
Sonia Fallworth or something
Sonia,
like that.
Yeah.
Sonia, and he does the thing, and the thing comes up, and he has the heart. First of all, Nick, that's the first place I would have looked. Okay, I would have said, okay, he's Nick Fury, he's got multiple graves, which just pick out which one that might have whatever he needs. Second, goes into the crypt, hits one thing, pulls out the thing, pulls out the patch, gets on the phone, puts on the coat, puts on the hat. Were you guys not excited? I
Okay,
was
that was a
hyped.
cool scene. I liked
Yeah.
that scene.
I couldn't wait
Great.
until episode 6. I almost stayed home from work that day.
But again, it's kind of like you give us these small moments.
Mhm.
Like, okay, the whole thing with the grave, and he tells it, he tells her, oh, I have several of these all around the world. Okay, for Nick Fury, that kind of makes sense. Okay. And not too many people are gonna think, oh, well, Nick Fury probably has a grave here, a grave there. I mean, if anybody goes online and does a cemetery search, they'll find out that he has several graves because those things are public record. When you get to the point where he goes into the crypt and you find all of the secret, the secret compartments, and you've got this and you've got that, like we saw a tease of this earlier on when he said Nick Fury was dead and he got rid of the eye patch and whatever. But it's like you give us this moment and you really think that Nick Fury is about to be a badass. He's about to show himself to Gravik, like, oh, I understand I'm a little bit old, I'm a little bit busted up, but I'm still Nick motherfucking Fury. You think you're gonna get this, and then you get episode 6.
You don't.
And it's almost like I don't know. I was gonna say something that was really crude, but I'm not even
there
gonna
was
use
no
it.
payoff. There
Yeah,
was no
there was no
payoff.
payoff.
There was no payoff for it. You get
None.
excited, they get you hype. Oh, because that was the whole season. Like, okay, I'm waiting for him to turn. I'm waiting for him to make that turn. I'm waiting
Right.
for every episode. I'm waiting for him to become a Nick Fury I know. Oh, here's the moment, finally. And no.
It was
And no.
equivalent to when we were watching the Super Bowl halftime show and we were excited because we just knew Rihanna was going to have another album. And she comes out and she's pregnant. Like, oh man, it's Sunrise Girl pregnant again. No, we're not going to get that album for at least 2 years. That's how bad it was. Okay, they were teasing us. Okay, they were giving. They were giving us, this is what you want. This is what you need. And then we got nothing. Look, I don't necessarily want to slap somebody upside the head, but whoever wrote this episode and wrote that scene and then gave us the next one, they at least need to get a penalty kick or something, because you cannot hype something and don't deliver. Oh wait, Game of Thrones. Anyway, but still.
I would like to let the Rihanna Navy know that those opinions are Lori's and not ours.
I was just saying what I saw online.
I have made my opinions on that halftime show very clear. I felt I was very underwhelmed. So anyway, moving on.
No, all I was saying is that was sort of the reaction that they were giving us, that you were expecting one thing, you get a surprise, and then you move on and it doesn't turn out to be anything. I'm not saying anything against Rihanna. People, don't come after me. I like
Wait, hold on. So, but I mean, I actually like the way they set it up, even though it's kind of predictable that was in the final episode that really wasn't Nick Fury coughing and going through the nuclear wasteland. I was like, there's no chance in hell. There's no way. No.
Well, okay. All right.
I knew, and I was waiting for for them to go for him to show up at the hospital. It's like, as soon as he started picking people off, I was like, yep, see, that's Nick Fury right there. Like, I already knew. You already knew.
Okay, Mike. Here's the thing. I bought into the whole nuclear wasteland thing a little bit with him coughing and still surviving. Because remember, what does Nick Fury have in his system?
Blood.
Yeah, but that's not been established in the show.
Well,
no, not yet.
That's a comic book thing.
Okay, well, okay. Technically, he should have okay. I won't go into it, but anyway, the thing is that I know Sam Jackson is in his 70s or something, right? I know he maybe cannot move as fast as he used to and all that, but I at least expected him to properly cuss him out. I'm watching on screen and he's like, I'm going to use a flamethrower to do humanity and all this other stuff. Come on. No. Nick was like, wait, I know that was Amelia Clark.
Well, again, this is Disney. This is Disney.
I know, but still, I expected something. And the thing that, okay, I'm just going to move back, go a little bit previous. The whole thing with the president. Okay, the president, Rhodey tries to take him out. They had that whole convoy thing. That thing was exciting for about 3 seconds. And then it became predictable, and then it became stupid. And then that was the entire rest of the whole thing with the president. First of all, did you see the president's hotel room? He had a fireplace in his hospital room. Who has a fireplace? Okay, first of all, that's an awfully nice hospital. That's all I'm saying. Second, that violates several codes. But anyway, the thing is, if it wasn't for Sophia's character, the character showing up with the gun and saying, you really are a Skrull and all this other stuff, it would not have been exciting because Rhodey's character was too, I'm gonna rub my hands together and do an evil henchman laugh type of a thing.
Yes.
There it just wasn't satisfying for halfway through episode 1 all the way to episode 6, not satisfying at all.
Right. Okay, so
third of all, hold on. Third of all, anyone who used to watch the History Channel and whenever they talked about the Secret Service and the president, they know that all that crap that happened, the way the hospital was, that is not what would happen in real life when it comes to the president in a foreign country.
No.
The man literally has a hospital with him wherever he goes.
Mm-hmm.
So that, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. The suspension of disbelief that they wanted us to have for this show from the first scene to the last scene is unconscionable.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of it hardly made any sense.
Yeah.
We were bashing the whole episode again. I didn't want to do that.
I didn't want to do that, but there were so many things wrong with this episode, and I don't want to get like, me. I mean, y'all know me. I am the type of person, I try to see the silver lining in everything. So even on things that y'all say are bad, I try to be like, no, well, I try to give it, benefit of the doubt. And it was just very hard to do that with this series. As much as I anticipated it and as much as I really wanted to love it, I just couldn't. And a lot of it, again, has to do with the stuff that happened off screen. We keep mentioning Sonya Fallworth's character. Again, this is a person who seemed to out Nick Fury. And supposedly they have this history and they go way back, and she knows him and he knows her, and they're able to outmaneuver each other. How? If she's somebody who's going to be such a major player and such a big deal, how? Like, explain that relationship to me, because there's not too many people who can get that close to Nick Fury to the point
she didn't even know he was married to a Skrull. That's what I was like. I mean,
well, okay, that doesn't surprise me at all. The fact that nobody knew Nick Fury was married, much less to a Skrull, that doesn't surprise me. I think the thing that probably surprised me most in this is the fact that, what was it, when he got up to go walk outside, and Talos was like, oh, big black man walking around in the middle of the night in Russia, that's not going to be conspicuous. The fact that he knew she was going to send somebody to pick him up, and she was like, you're getting soft in your old age, to let my people pick you up. He was like, I let your people pick me up. But for you to know him well enough to know that, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. And that is the one thing that makes it so hard for me to enjoy this particular series, because there's so much about the background stuff. Again, yes, you're giving us the main story, you're giving us all the important points, and I get that. But anybody who has listened to this podcast knows we need the background, we need the tea, we need to know what's going on, how certain things happen, how certain things line up. Because other than that, if you're giving it to us on the surface and it doesn't make sense, I just don't understand it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. The closeness and the camaraderie that you see between Nick Fury and Talos, you don't see that with him and anybody else in any of the
Right.
series or films that we have seen him with. Maria is probably closest. Natasha is probably closest. But even then, there's kind of a arm's length.
Right.
You know, I'm like, does Maria even know he was married? And to a Skrull at that. I don't know. Like I said, I really, really wanted to like this series. I was excited about the fact that Emilia Clarke was going to be in it, and I like what she did with her character. But again, you've made her the adult version of a child character that we barely saw in Miss Marvel, and you don't give us the connection to her character. So it's kind of like, am I supposed to care that she's struggling or that she's again, we don't know the background between what happened with her and her parents. Her mom dies off screen. Her defection to her parents happens off screen. And then when you do see her, you kind of see her being an ass to her father, and then she's lying to him about, oh yeah, I'll help you out, and then that turns out to be a lie. A whole bunch of people die, including Maria Hill. And then now you want to come in and be like, oh, okay, yeah, Dad, I'm gonna help you. Bitch, we don't care now. But I don't know. It's just, I really, really wanted to like this show, and I'm not saying I hate it, but the only way I would probably watch it again is probably right before Miss Marvel comes out, or the Marvels come out, to see if there's any correlation between those two stories. But other than that, it's just kind of like, it's going to be one of those series that I probably will never watch again. Yeah. And I hate it because I love Nick Fury. I love Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. And it's like, we've been wanting to know what's going on with his character. Like, I still don't even remember the whole thing. Everybody keeps talking about him going to live on Saber and doing this. I don't remember that. Like, did that happen on screen, or is that something else that happened off screen? Okay.
That had to be off screen.
Yeah.
So again, it's just kind of like,
because you think about it, in Endgame, when everybody came back, like, he wasn't there.
He showed up he was at Tony's funeral, and that was it.
That was it.
That was it.
That was it.
So I think the big problem with this series, at least for me, as a Marvel MCU viewer from the beginning with Iron Man, one of the good things about the MCU movies, and one of the reasons why people love it so much, is because we are invested in the characters. We are invested in the story. We're invested in the who's and the whys and the hows. And I just feel like Secret Invasion gave us more questions than it did answers. And it didn't even have to provide answers, but it could have given us a little bit more story and a little more background to actually care about these characters. But I'm kind of like, why should I care about the Skrull? I really don't. Like, I know more about the Kree because of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. than I do about the Skrull.
Well, and Nick didn't give you a reason to care about him because he dipped at the end.
He dipped. He was like, oh, I got my Skrull chick right here. I'm gone. Deuces. That's it. So, I don't know.
Well, the performances were good. There were a lot of good moments.
There were
some good performances. Even Talos, that actor, that was a good performance. I hate to see him gone. I hate to see Colby gone. I mean, I really do. Yeah.
We're holding out that Maria Hill is still alive somewhere. Maybe she's in Tahiti. Maybe she's in Tahiti.
No, there's no more Tahiti. There's no more. No.
As far as we know, there's no more Tahiti, but all this shit that happens off screen, they may have rebuilt it. They may have done.
Oh, no.
Because Coulson was dead.
Yeah, but the way that they ended Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I highly doubt that Tahiti is actually around. And if it is, it's nowhere where it used to be.
I know. But a girl can hope.
I know.
Because
What is hope,
accepting.
Anthony? What is hope, Anthony?
You know what?
Hope
Shut
is
up.
a place where dreams go to die.
Shut up. Shut up. Does anybody have any final thoughts about Secret Invasion?
Okay, here's the thing. I can't do it.
Yeah, he seemed like
I
he
want
took it so serious.
I want it so bad. It's like I want. Okay, I'm gonna shout out the moments that I really loved. I love the moment between Talos and Nick on the train where Nick told a story about his mom finding out like about him lying and stuff, and that whole conversation was just incredible. Like there was so many, and like that moment, the first time that Nick and Skrully were talking, um, all the interactions between Nick and his wife were just where I liked them, except for the end. Shout out. Okay, you might have to take this out. Shout out to Nick not ever being able to get a blowjob from his wife. That's just terrible from him. I feel bad.
What?
Don't make him repeat that. Don't make him repeat that.
I mean, it's like okay, but for what I was getting at is the animation at the very end where she's talking to him as a Skrull was so bad. I was like, y'all, that could have been left out because her mouth moved about that much when she was talking. She's like, "Hey, see Nick, yeah, I'm like, y'all could have left that whole thing out with her teeth glaring. It's like I appreciate them being able to kiss as him kissing her as a Skrull. I appreciate the message. The message is beautiful. I'm glad, but the animation and the execution were just bad. And I'm not going to repeat what I said, so I refuse.
So all emails.
If you, those of you who are listening, Hanukkah and I literally slapped our foreheads together. You talk about a face palm.
I'm in California. I had nothing to do with it.
And
I think that's the other weird thing for me too, seeing Samuel L. Jackson kiss on screen, because I don't think he does that very he's
he
one
doesn't.
Of
No,
he
does
not do that. So that was weird to me too.
Yeah, I don't think I'm trying to wrap. I don't think I've ever seen him kiss on screen, to be honest with you.
He doesn't do it because he made a point of saying that because he's married. Like he doesn't do that at all, really.
So it was very weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
But my final 2 cents about this whole Secret Invasion thing is Disney. I love you. I mean, I'm watching Avengers Assemble. I just finished most of your X-Men animation series. I love you guys, but I want my money back. Okay, I want my money back for Secret Invasion. You can put that money towards, say, bringing another one of the Spider-Man animation to your channel, but I want my money back from Secret Invasion.
Yeah, Anthony, you got anything final to say?
I got nothing.
What?
I got nothing. I don't have anything. I don't have anything to say.
Okay, I think I've said all I need to say too, and I think Mike takes the cake for closing thoughts. So on that note, that is it for our show. You can find us online at www.fandomhybrid.com. We are on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Fandom Hybrid. Oh, and Threads at Fandom Hybrid. You can chat with us on our Discord channel. You can watch our videos on our YouTube channel, and you can listen to us on all major podcast streaming platforms. Thanks for listening. We hope you join the conversation next time.